Hello, so welcome to another reading vlog. This week, the main thing that I'm planning to read is The Shadow of the Wind, although it's possible I won't finish it this week. I kind of want to, but admittedly, in my TBR plan, the idea was that I would just read this as my ebook book in the mornings and the evenings when I want to have the lights off. And so, given the length of this might take me more than a week, but also, we'll see. We'll see how things work out. I did actually start this last night and I kind of wanted to binge it because I was really enjoying it, which is a little bit weird because it has this kind of historical fiction feel, which normally isn't something I like. But there's also this kind of magical mystery element to it, which I am enjoying. So we're following this young boy and he lives in Barcelona. His father is a bookseller and his father takes him to this cemetery of forgotten books. And kind of the rule is the first time you go there, you can pick any book to take for free. So he picks this one book and it's written by this guy called Julian Carracks. And he kind of, in trying to find out more about this book, because he reads it overnight, he just reads it in one big binge. He's kind of addicted to it. He loves it and he wants to find out more about it, more about the author, find more books by the author. And once he starts talking to his father's friends, firstly they discover all the other copies of this book. The Shadow of the Wind is the name of the book. Not just this book, but the book that he's taken from the Cemetery of Forgotten Books. And all the other editions have been burnt. There is another book by the same author, possibly more, but it seems like this author has a lot of drama and gossip around him. And we haven't learned yet, just a few chapters in, we haven't learned yet why all the other copies of this Shadow of the Wind were burnt. But I guess he's going to kind of work to discover things. I don't know. There's something about the way that it's written that just kind of pulls you in. So I'm hoping it will keep pulling me through the whole book and I will be able to fly through it. But we'll see. The other thing I am going to read this week is I do have Follow Me to Ground by Sue Rainsford. This is kind of a short horror book. I think it's just a couple of 100 pages. I did actually read the very first bit, just a couple of pages that were all just about this girl. I don't know if it actually said it was a girl, but I got the feeling it was a girl. And she's mostly just talking about her fear of slugs and how they come out of this drain at night. And there were a few references to her father that just seemed a little bit weird. And I guess that's where we might get into the horror element of things. I'm a bit concerned if it's a slug horror now. When I was reading that, it was reminding me of this time when I was really young, less than 10, I guess, and me and my cousin were staying in a tent in my nana's backyard on my nana and granddad's farm. And in the middle of the night, we needed to go to the toilet. So we came out of the tent and the grass was just covered in snails. And we didn't have any shoes because it was the middle of summer. And we had to try and step between the snails. Awful. So I don't know if I'm up for a slug horror, but I guess we'll see. And if I manage to finish that, which I should, then we'll see if I pick up something else or I just try and focus on this. Oh, as well, I do have an audiobook that I started on my run yesterday. It is called Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield. So this is a story that's a very storytelling style story where it's all about the storytelling and the characters in the book are all also into storytelling. We're basically following or meeting a bunch of people at this inn where they do focus on telling stories as well as getting drunk. And then this man arrives very badly injured and he has this, what they at first think is a puppet, but it turns out to be a child with him. And there's some strange things going on. But I really like the writing style of that. It's kind of reminding me of The River Has Roots by Amal El-Mohtar. But it's a 16-hour audiobook, so it's a bit longer than that, which I think is going to be good. It seems already like there's quite a lot of different plot threads being introduced. And I'm expecting things to come together in an interesting way. It's another one where there's a bit of a magical mystery, which I'm hoping will keep me interested. So I guess we will see how I go with all these books. Okay, so you are balanced very precariously. Please don't fall over. This is where I admit that honestly I don't even know how many days later it is. I have just been really unmotivated. I'm trying to decide, is it just for booktube stuff and reading and videos, or is it for everything? I think it's for everything, except Hello Kitty Adventure Island. I've gotten really into making flowers and I've fallen down a big rabbit hole with that, made myself a beautiful spreadsheet. But even though I'm really enjoying that, I'm not sure that's the achievement that I wanted to get out of the last few days. We did also, we've almost finished. For me, it's a rewatch of Supernatural season 5 we're up to, but I've basically been making my boyfriend watch all of Supernatural. He claims he doesn't really like it, but he does laugh at some bits, and he does seem to enjoy it okay. And like last night, The Princess Bride was on actual TV, and he chose to watch Supernatural over The Princess Bride. I would have chosen The Princess Bride, but he said, no, you've already made me watch that multiple times because The Princess Bride is one of my favorite movies. Anyway, we've just got one more episode left, then we'll be done with season 5. I'm making him watch till at least the end of season 7 because season 7's actually my favorite. We'll see if I still think that on a rewatch. Anyway, that's neither here nor there for a reading vlog. Reading. The only thing I have actually done, so I'm 30% of the way into Shadow of the Wind, and I have mixed feelings about it. I'm really enjoying the little bits we're getting about this mystery, about this author, like the little bits we're learning about his life and the kind of like bits of that are intersecting with Daniel's life that almost feel like they have a supernatural tinge to them, but it's unclear whether that's actually what's happening or not. I want it to be that. I want it to be fantastical and supernatural, but I'm not sure. And in the author's kind of discovery of like what we're discovering about him, we have just learned he has a love interest called Penelope, and I'm always going to love any inclusion of a character called Penelope. But the rest of the story, a lot of it is just this young boy, Daniel, his life, and he's like infatuated with all these women, and he's kind of like coming of age, and nobody warned me. This was the perspective of a teenage boy infatuated over many women, and that's just not what I enjoy. So I'm kind of with this book like, clinging to any little bits of the mystery that I'm getting, and then the rest I'm a little bit bored, which is perhaps why I've dropped off reading it as much. As well, though, I haven't read anything of Follow Me to Ground. The problem is that I'm reading both Shadow of the Wind and Follow Me to Ground on my Kobo, and so whenever I pick my Kobo up, I just go into the Shadow of the Wind. But I think what I'm going to do right now is change it over to Follow Me to Ground, and after I film this, I've got like half an hour till dinner, not very long, but I'm just going to read Follow Me to Ground and see if I can get pulled into that. The other thing, though, that I have read that I should update you about is Once Upon a River. This is another one where parts of it I'm really loving. It's kind of, we've been introduced to a lot of different characters, and there's actually several girls, young girls, like 4-year-olds, that have gone missing on the river, potentially dead. So there is definitely a darker element to the story. And so now the question is, how does this young girl that's kind of been found in the river relate to those missing girls? And I'm really enjoying trying to put together the mystery, like trying to work out not just who this little girl is, but also how everyone else might fit into her life, both like in past events, but also I feel like this book is putting everything together into future events, like hopefully a happily ever after for everyone, except maybe a couple who don't deserve it. And I'm enjoying not just piecing together the mystery of the past, but piecing together what I think is going to happen in the book. But that said, we're getting a lot of different plot threads, a lot of different characters' perspectives, and some of them I'm really into, and others are really boring. So it's kind of similar to Shadow of the Wind, where like some bits I'm really loving it, and then other bits I'm just not. However, since I'm listening to that as my audiobook while I'm going on runs or whatever, at least I get through the bits I'm a little bit bored of and then get back to the bits that I am really liking. I think that's definitely the benefit of listening to this as an audiobook. However, sometimes I do wish I was reading it at home so that I could take notes and like better put together the mystery. Maybe I should be taking notes for this one. I always mean to take notes when I read books, and then when I'm actually reading them, I'm like too into the story to like take myself out and remember to write the notes. And then once I've finished reading, I've always got something else I'd rather be doing. Or like if I only stopped reading because I have to do something else. Anyway, right now, I'm going to read Follow Me to Ground. So my next update should be about that. Hello. So I'm annoyed today because it's super rainy, and really all I wanted to do was go out for a run and keep listening to, what's it called? Once Upon a River, because out of the books I'm reading at the moment, that is actually the one I'm enjoying the most. Even though it still definitely has its slow parts. Like I said, I'm enjoying putting things together. I will say I came up with a new theory and then I realized, oh wait, I actually made up that theory earlier. So I really would be doing better with this book if I was making notes. And it is definitely very slow in the way that it's pulling everything together. But I think I'm still enjoying it. I think actually I should check my spreadsheet. It's right in front of me. I think I might have thought this was a children's book. Excuse me, you're in the way. Oh no, I've put adult. I don't know. Anyway, it's definitely adult. Although probably young adults could enjoy it, but definitely some adult themes in there. Not a children's book like I thought at all. But hopefully tomorrow will be sunnier and I can continue that. I think I'm actually about halfway through that, and also the other two things I'm reading. So I did make myself sit down with Follow Me to Ground. I got about halfway through, and I think I've only got like an hour of reading time to go. So I might sit down and try and finish that after this. I honestly don't know how I feel about it because it's a little bit weird, but not like, I don't know, not as weird as some things that I've read. I can definitely see people who don't read weird things would think this is super weird because our characters, or the main character, this father and daughter, just aren't very human, and these people that they call everyone else in the village cures, which seems to be their word for humans, and when they cure them they will like open up their bodies, and sometimes they won't be able to cure them from just doing that, so they'll have to bury them in the ground. So it's not entirely clear what's going on with that, but also I saw some people saying this was really like gruesome, and at least so far I don't think the way that it's describing these people being opened up is like overly gross. Like to me it almost feels nice because the intention of it is healing. But I also am finding it really hard to connect to the main character. So the main character is the daughter. We're getting her perspective, and she's kind of having this affair with this human guy, and maybe he's not that great, but she also just seems very disconnected from everything that's happening. And so that means I'm not getting emotionally invested because she doesn't really seem to be emotionally invested. But halfway through, something just happened, and I'm hoping that's going to lead to the story getting a little bit more interesting and like having a clear point to whatever's happening. I guess we'll see. The other thing that I have been reading is Shadow of the Wind. This one I also got halfway through now, and I'm just 90% of the time really bored. Like Daniel's life, I don't really care about anything he's doing. And anytime he's discovering things about this author's life, it's kind of weird. Like he'll come across someone who will agree to tell him some stuff about this author's life. And then it's like we're getting that story told to us, but in the narration kind of style, normal narration style, rather than as this person telling them that. But still, it's being told to us in a very like telling kind of way. So it's like... It's kind of like there's too much description for it to be this character telling the story, but it's also like too much information. So he's finding out things that I don't think that person would really have said. I don't know, it keeps kind of confusing me about what he even really knows. But also, the more we learn about this author's life, the more bored I am with it. I mean, I am enjoying still a little bit trying to put together the mystery, but I just don't know if I care about all the drama. And there are occasionally some really great lines, and I'm like, yes, I love that line. But I just don't know if for me it's worth reading all the stuff that I just don't care about. I'm so bored. This is a 5-star prediction. It's not working out. And it's got such a high rating, this. On Goodreads, it's like 4.5. Really? It could just be that I don't like historical fiction. I don't like stories that are just really focused in on people's lives without much more plot around it. And like more and more, I'm losing hope for there being any kind of supernatural thing going on. I think it's all just going to be stuff and nonsense. I don't know. I'm hoping this will turn around in the second half, but I'm losing hope as well. Hello. So I have decided that I am giving up on The Shadow of the Wind. I really tried. I got to 53%, but I just really don't care. I read a little bit this morning before I went on a run, and now I came back and I looked up spoilers because I thought, is this ever going to get interesting? And the summary is, I don't think this is going to do anything that I would find interesting. I can see maybe why other people like it, and I think if I liked the plot and the characters, I would like the writing. Well, it's still a lot of telling and not showing, which I think is part of why I don't feel connected to the characters. But honestly, I just don't care about Daniel and his love interest. I just, at this point, don't care about Julian and his love interest and all the drama around his family. And having looked up spoilers, I just don't think I'm going to care. I don't think, like, there are some cool mysteries going to be revealed, but I honestly don't think I care. So I'm glad I decided to look up spoilers at 53% of the way, because I think if I had pushed through, I would have been really annoyed at myself. I'm really sad because this book is so popular, but I just think maybe I should have paid more attention to who was liking it and maybe also the genre tags. I don't know. I really did like the first chapter, but I'm just so bored and I just don't care about any of it. So I won't be finishing this and I won't be continuing the series, which I mean at least means there's less books on my TBR now, I guess. As well, so I finished off Follow Me to Ground. This isn't great either. I guess, like, it was fine. I really liked the ideas, like this concept of these people healing by like opening people up and burying them in the ground, and all the strangeness about this father and daughter was really interesting, but I don't feel like the story really did anything with it, and the plot was eh. And I didn't see anyone saying that this was feminist, but I saw some people saying that they had heard that it was feminist and they didn't agree. And I was trying to think last night, is there a way to interpret it in a way that you can see this as like feminist empowerment? And the more I thought about it, the more I felt like it was the opposite, because I can kind of interpret some of the things that happened as like a metaphor for what is the sun doing? Stereotypical woman things, like girls being as obsessed with bad guys and trying to change men. And I don't know. Honestly, I don't think the story was really about anything. I'm guessing that the people that really liked it are people that just like that element of the healing, because I think that's really all this book had going for it. So, like, it was fine, but nothing amazing. I mean, I was willing to finish it, unlike Shadow of the Wind. So then as well, I did go for a run this morning, and I still have a couple of hours of listening to go on Once Upon a River, even though I listened to it on my whole run, although it wasn't the longest of runs that I've been on. I don't know if I have much more to say. It's kind of just the same. There has been some interesting things happen. It's definitely, do you know, I feel like if I was reading something really amazing as my other reads, I would be like, I don't really like Once Upon a River, but because, what is that sun doing? Shining on me too brightly. Because my other books have been so disappointing, like relative, it makes Once Upon a River seem really great. But I'm definitely much more invested in Once Upon a River. So I'm going to keep this vlog going until I finish that, I think. And since I finished the other two books, what I am going to do is I'm going to start reading The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. This one is something about a moon god, but I think the writing is really creative. Anyway, this is another 5-star prediction, just like Shadow of the Wind was. Shadow of the Wind, though, was obviously a fail, so let's hope that this one will go better. Okay, for some reason I've decided to film this update while Jace is mowing the lawns outside, so hopefully, well, he's on the other side of the house at the moment, so I hope he stays around there. But I wanted to update you because I read the first part of this, so there's a little page of contents at the beginning, so you can see there's before, 5 days, and then after, and then actually, while we've got this open, there's also this really crazy picture. I'm a bit sad because one downside of paperbacks Although, would the hardback necessarily be much better? Maybe not, but because there's this picture across 2 pages, but it's really hard to see the middle. And the middle, I actually think might be more important. And I'm always like, are there some secrets in there that I can't see? Because even the explanation of what it's a picture of, I can't really read. I've just realized there's more text up here that I can't read. Does it say the land as dreamt by the 8th emperor? Anyway, yesterday I basically sat down and blasted through 100 pages of this. At first, I wasn't sure if it was going to be my favorite. It didn't pull me in immediately, but slowly it kind of like grew on me. And it's definitely weird. So the story is kind of being told as a dream. I'm not sure if it's a story of a dream because it's also being told in second person, kind of like the framing is second person. That's what makes me think that it's a story of a dream, not just a dream. I don't think I'm making any sense. But it's also a dream in which all the dreamers are watching a play of the story we're being told. So most of the time we're actually just being told the story like a normal third-person story. But every now and then there'll be mentions of like the actors on stage or like something that reminds you that it is a play. Also, the dreamers that are watching the play are also the characters in the play or in the story. So they will occasionally like add little comments about what they were feeling at the time or like why they did something. And those bits will be like in first person because it's like they're just saying these things, even though it's like just written as italics. And one time it was even like part of the same sentence. So the start of the sentence was third person, the end of the sentence was first person, but italics, so that you know it's the input of a dreamer. I don't know, it's weird, but I kind of am enjoying like getting the story told in that way, and it kind of gives the whole story a more magical feel. So then the story itself, we start off with following the prince, the son of the emperor, who is some kind of like descendant or something of the moon and the water, but he has decided to go off on this big journey that they've been preparing for, this emperor. And there's a lot of people kind of expecting change to come as a result of this emperor's journey. However, then things go a bit sideways and there's definitely going to be changes. Things got quite dramatic. So I don't know. I assume, yeah, it looks like it's going to continue being the play in the next part, and I guess for the rest of the book. It's also kind of weird, like part of why I just read so much is it's not really divided into chapters. For the first 100 pages, we do have all these little sections, but it all just kind of flows together. Sometimes it's different scenes, but other times it's not. I can see though that the first day has a section for the dawn in the morning, midday. I guess there'll be something afternoon, night, and then the second day. So it's kind of about 100 pages per part. So I don't know how much we'll get through in this vlog, but so far this is really strange, but I'm quite intrigued by it. So that's good news. The only other thing I was reading is, because then I also needed an ebook. So I started reading Cucumber Quest, which I've read before, by Gigi. Now this was a webcomic that never got finished, but the first 4 volumes were published as books, and I love it. It's the cutest story about just these little rabbit kids going on a quest to try and stop the nightmare night. But it's also like this really wholesome, lovable humor, and the colors are amazing. So I was super excited to just reread that. But then I realized I should have checked the library availability. So I've read volume 1 now, but volume 2, 3, and 4 I had to just put holds on. I don't think the hold lists are long, so it might come through at any time, but that means if I try to have ebook time, I don't know what I'm going to read. I do have a non-fiction book that I have floating around, The Hidden Life of Trees, and I haven't been getting through that. Maybe I could read that. Maybe that's a good idea, Penny, because I was enjoying that. Anyway, as well, so far this vlog has been very lacking in b-roll, mainly because it's been so freezing. However, Jason and I are going to go out in the sun this afternoon because the sun has returned. So we'll go out in the sun, and maybe tomorrow as well we'll go to the beach. So cue the b-roll, I guess.
Lazy Sunday mornings, hiding under covers. I don't mind staying in with you. Play your favorite favorite movie laying right beside me. I don't mind when it's just us two. That corner coffee shop we like to go. Late night walks with you to take me home. With you I never feel alone.
These little songs make me glad to call you mine. And you have got my head in the clouds.
1, 2, 3.
All that I need is your body next to me on rainy days. Just need your company, don't need too much. Just your simple love and it's everything. The simple joy of hearing your voice every morning. I wake to a kiss on my face, so I don't need too much. Just your simple love and it's everything. Walking to the market, strolling hand in hand, exchanging letters when you're away. Don't need any effort when we are together. We always have fun.
Hello, so it must be time for me to wrap up this reading vlog because I have finished Once Upon a River and I enjoyed it. I think it was very satisfying. There was a lot of different plot threads that all came together, a lot of different characters that I think it's really easy to empathize with their story and their struggle. Maybe there were a few bits where I cared less than other bits, but I kind of enjoyed how throughout the whole story there's kind of this hint of maybe things are a little bit magical, but also we always have this nurse character called Rita who's coming at things from a very scientific point of view. So while you're trying to figure out kind of the mystery of what's gone on, you still feel kind of grounded in reality while it still has this kind of story type fairy tale feeling. It's quite a nice mix. I do wonder if I had read this with my eyes instead of with my ears, whether the experience would have been different, because the audiobook narrator does add a certain style to things as well. And interestingly, I think I would normally say I don't like that audiobook narration style, but for the story, I think it worked really well. So then, where are we with this vlog? I DNF'd that, so that's kind of annoying. I have been reading The Spare Cups Through Water, although not much over the last few days. I'm about nearly 200 pages in. I'm still really enjoying it. At this point, I'm at the bit where it's the first day, and most of the first day, I think I'm nearly at the end of the first day. It's just been these two young men kind of transporting this moon empress and a lot of things going wrong and them kind of getting to know each other a little bit and getting to know themselves a little bit. I still definitely think it's the way that it's written so creatively that's really drawing me into the story. I'm going to finish this off in next week's vlog and I'm very excited to do so. The other thing that I have been reading is, well, I was reading The Hidden Life of Trees. That's what I told you I was going to pick up for my ebook. I read a few chapters of it and I realized, firstly, I think I can only read a chapter of this at a time and then it's just too much for me. I like just a little snippet of information, and as well I think I like it when it's quite focused on a particular topic and each chapter is kind of moving to a different topic. But also the first chapter was really focused on how trees communicate with each other, and I thought that was really interesting and it was quite clear about what was going on. I feel like since then it's some of the other topics it's been getting into are less scientific. It's kind of keeps telling me the trees decide to do things and I'm like, do they decide? Because you're making it sound like they have a brain, and certainly they might have processes through which they make decisions or through which decisions are made, but I don't think they're necessarily deciding I don't know. I just think sometimes the way it's written, it doesn't feel as clear about what's going on. It's also making a lot of assumptions about my knowledge of different kinds of trees. And I wish certain things, like when it's telling me for this type of tree it does this, and for this type of tree it does this, it sometimes feels quite all muddy, the information. So while I love the first kind of chapter or two, it's been going downhill for me since then, but I'm still maybe going to keep reading it, although I think it's going to return itself to the library again soon. But I'll probably just get it out again, read a chapter every few months or something like that. So, since I kind of gave up on that ebook, I did have my hold come through for the ebook of The Grace of Kings, which I do own. I bought this from a book fair a long time ago, and I read the first chapter, thought it was really great. I was excited to pick up this series, right? But the second chapter, what was that? So different. So the first chapter, there's this big procession for this new emperor, and it seems like there's been a lot of conflict in the past, and so maybe not everybody's happy with him being the emperor. And then there's also these young boys there at this procession, at this big parade, as there's like an assassination attempt on the emperor. And the way the scene was written, it was so wonderfully described, and you felt these young boys' experience of it, and also the emperor's experience of it, and like you could feel like you were there, right? The second chapter is just like completely different. Instead, it's like a high-level story, basically just telling you the history of this family and this particular boy. And like, for example, it's telling us that this young boy was like hiding out in the food storage rooms while the rest of his family is being murdered. But it's just telling you that. I want to feel like, what was that like? I want to be in the scene. I don't want a whole chapter just telling me about all these different exploits of these people. And then I started in chapter 3, and it seems like it's going to be the same. Like just telling me the legendary exploits of some important figure. But I don't want to be told the story that way. And I think that I have heard this is based very closely on Chinese history and mythology. And I feel like I'm just being told those myths and those stories, but not as a story. I'm just being told the events. And that's not what I was expecting from the first chapter, with all its wonderful description and like where you felt like you were in the scene. And now suddenly I'm just being told a bunch of historical shit. I don't know now if I even want to read this, to be honest. So I guess we'll see. I think next week I will keep the ebook around and we'll see how far I get through it. But I'm not going to push myself to like make a lot of progress. We're just going to see whether, if I keep picking it up every now and then, it manages to draw me in. If not, I'm probably going to DNF it, which is definitely not what I expected for this. So I guess we'll see. It might still improve, I guess. I'm trying to think, have I picked up anything else this vlog? I don't think so. So pretty much I read these 3 plus Once Upon a River, but I haven't finished these 2 books. Also, these 2 books are a disappointment so far. This one is going great. Once Upon a River was actually better than I was expecting. So, a bit of a mixed bag, really. Let me know if you've read any of these books. I would love to chat with you about them down in the comments, or let me know if you've been reading anything great lately. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.